Oh yeah. Yeah. Do a short version of something because we got like 2 minutes. Or maybe even like from the second half of it. Yeah, yeah. Trio. Let's do trio. Trio of El Cap 2/4. Oh, all right. All right. We'll start at 7-7. Worst case scenario.
Please take your seats as the ceremony will begin momentarily. At this time, please silence or turn off all phones and electronic devices. Throughout the ceremony, you will be given cues to stand, applaud, and be seated at the appropriate times. As a reminder, during our national anthem, military members in uniform should stand at attention, while civilians should stand and place their right hand over their heart. Good afternoon. On behalf of our presiding officer, General Duke Z. Richardson, Commander, Air Force Materiel Command, welcome to the National Museum of the Air Force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. Today, Major General Scott A. Cain will pass command of the Air Force Research Laboratory to Brigadier General Jason E. Bartolome. Our AFRL team is comprised of dedicated individuals, including Department of the Air Force civilians and military members of the United States Air Force and the United States Space Force. Each member brings unique skills, perspectives, and experiences to the table, enabling us to explore, prototype, and demonstrate high-impact, game-changing technologies that enable the Air Force and nation to maintain its superior technical advantage. I am Victoria Bilsma, your narrator for today's ceremony. Please stand for the arrival of the official party, playing of ruffles and flourishes, and the General's March. We are honored to have some special guests with us today. Please hold your applause until everyone has been introduced. Major General Kane's family, his spouse, Michelle, his son, Evan, and joining us virtually, his father and mother-in-law, Steve and Judy Breezy. Brigadier General Bartolome's family, his spouse, Tracy, his daughter, Gloria, his son, Hudson, his parents, Ed and Lexi, his brother, Harper, accompanied by his son, Teddy, his brother, EJ, accompanied by his son, Trip, and joining us virtually, his sons, Isaac and Graham. The mayor, City of Oakwood, the Honorable William Duncan. The mayor, City of Riverside, the Honorable Pete Williams, accompanied by his spouse, Rebecca. The leadership team from the Air Force Materiel Command, the Deputy Commander, Lieutenant General Linda Hurry, the Executive Director, Miss Lorna Estep, and the Command Chief, Chief Master Sergeant Bill Fitch, former Vice Commander, Air Force Materiel Command, Lieutenant General Dick Reynolds, United States Air Force retired. Ohio State Senator, 10th Senate District, the Honorable Bob Hackett. Ohio State Representative, 38th House District, the Honorable Willis E. Blackshear, Jr. The leadership team from the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center, the Executive Director, Mr. Dennis D'Angelo, and the Deputy Commander, Colonel John Kurian. The leadership team from the Air Force Research Laboratory, the Executive Director, Mr. Timothy Sekulich, accompanied by his wife Diane, the Chief Technology Officer, Dr. Timothy Bunning, the Deputy Commander, Colonel Miko Padilla, the Chief Information Officer, Miss Alexis Bonnell, and spouse of the Command Chief, Miss Legina Labrador. We also welcome all community representatives, senior officers, commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, friends, family, airmen, and guardians. Thank you for attending. Oh, shit, sorry. I don't have it. Present the colors. Thank you, Airlifter Brass and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Honor Guard. Chaplain Payne, please come forward to offer the invitation.
Will you join me in prayer? Eternal Father, strong to save, we gather this afternoon to bear witness to the change of command from Major General Scott Cain to Brigadier General Jason Bartolome. As the guidance of command passes, I pray that you would bless General Kane for his leadership over the past year as guardian of the tradition of honor and legacy of valor of the warriors who, since the Great War, have been the ones our nation turns to put the POW in great power competition. As General Bartolome assumes the guidance of command, I pray that you would give him the strength of Samson, the wisdom of Solomon, and the patience of Job to lead this amazing team of bicycle mechanics as they continue making the extraordinary look ordinary. In your most holy name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Payne. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce our presiding officer, General Duke Richardson.
Well, welcome everybody. Didn't we just do this? We did actually about a year ago, and it's pretty shocking how fast a year went. We'll see if we can hold on to this next one a little bit longer. I want to thank the senior leaders for attending. There's lots of folks here that went through the name. I won't list them all again, but we've got industry folks here attending. We've got current leaders attending. We've got elected officials, and we have this awesome AFRL workforce. So thanks everybody for attending. And we have our families. So lots of families here. Also, part of the family is also online. So welcome. And we have our troop formation. So turn around and look at our troop formation. Take a look. All right, so commander of troops, I'm going to give you an order. I can talk a long time. And I want to show everybody that I can actually learn as well. If you were here last year, I failed to do what I'm about to do. Would you please put the formation at ease? I'm really doing that for you, Commander of Troops. Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about if you were here last year. Today's a big day for the lab. Today's a big day for Team Cain. I think you're probably packed out of your house. So you got a lot of big days coming up. And of course, today's a big day for Team Bartolome. And we've got a whole transition going on. There's a lot going on in the Air Force. And we're going to transition the lab leadership, one fantastic leader to another, so that we can hold the momentum. And we're really, if you think about what's going on right now, our nation and certainly our Air Force is at a very pivotal point in time. We're kind of at a decision point. Do we accept the status quo and just kind of keep going with what we have and attempt to deter and fight with the legacy equipment that we have? Or do we re-optimize ourselves for great power competition in perpetuity? What do you think we should do? Clearly, there's only one real choice there. The first one is a false choice. And the SecAF and CSAF have spoken. We will re-optimize. We will make sure that we have an affordable and continuous pipeline of technical capabilities feeding our war machine. And that all starts with the Air Force Research Lab. Hence the importance of the ceremony today. I want to talk a few minutes about what the Air Force Research Lab is for those that may not be aware. Think about 12,500 people. We're talking about scientists, we're talking about engineers, program managers, chief financial officers, logisticians, pretty much all the functionals that you might see across AFMC are resident inside Air Force Research Lab. Intelligence experts, a lot of support staff, probably PhDs kind of hanging around. I don't know. Is there any PhDs out there? One or two, probably. $6 billion a year in execution. Get your head around that. And we're not just talking about Air Force, we're also talking about Space Force. Do we have any Guardians out there? Raise your hand if you're a Guardian. A little participation is okay, just don't try to take over. So at least Doug, you're the only guardian this year? Well, a shy guardian right over there. So, and we've got, they do also, the Air Force Research Lab also does work for Office of Secretary of Defense, other services. There's just a lot of work and research that goes on inside the Air Force Research Lab. And that's a very large number, and that we want to make sure is focused and used properly. We're talking about the entire span of S&T from 6.1 through 6.4. For those that don't know what that means, 6.1 is basic research, probably years away from turning into something that a warfighter would use. Applied research, 6.2, a little bit closer to reality. Advanced tech development, which is 6.3, and then 6.4 is now we're building components and we're building prototypes. So that's really what the lab does. The lab spans 6.1 to 6.4 S&T for the Department of the Air Force, both the Space Force and the Air Force. 47 worldwide locations. That's a lot. Incredible breadth and depth across a number of technical areas. I'm going to run through these really fast. There's not going to be a test, but this lab commander has got an incredible breadth of responsibilities. There's no way a single lab commander could really have technical depth in all the things that I'm about to speak to. But they do have technical depth in at least one of the areas. Aerospace systems, sensors, space vehicles, directed energy, materials, manufacturing, human performance, munitions, information dominance, hypersonics, artificial intelligence, quantum, biotechnology, position navigation and timing, microelectronics. I tried to hit them all. I don't know if I made it or not. Did I leave any out? Dr. Bunning says yes. I said AI. What else? Autonomy. I didn't say autonomy. That's right. I should have said autonomy. I just got to. By the way, General Bartolome, you and I are going to be talking later about autonomy. I just got a tasker on that yesterday. So how could I forget that? So you kind of get we're covering the entire spectrum of technology. We're covering the entire spectrum of the S&T life cycle. We're also covering the entire spectrum of classification. So we're going to be talking about stuff from unclassified up to top secret special access. So we got everything covered. We're working with universities. We're working with small businesses. We're working with the traditional defense industrial base. We're working with both airmen and guardians. We're working with civilians. We're working with contractor support. This is a very large, very complex organization. And we have a lot of really interested, what I'll call stakeholders, that care just a little bit about what the Air Force Research Lab. So look at General Kane. He's like, he gets it. General Bartolome's like, I think I get it. He will learn. He will learn. Congress, super interested, I'll just say. OSD, R&E, Research and Engineering, the arm of special arm inside OSD, really interested. There's this guy, he goes by Frank Kendall. You ever heard of him? The Secretary of the Air Force, extremely interested. If he's listening, I hope I'm not getting myself in trouble, but he's really super interested. Warfighters, very interested. All the major commands are interested. I'm interested. There's a lot of interest in this area, and there's a lot of work to do. And as I mentioned, we're really in a time of change. This is a very pivotal moment, I can't say that word today, in the nation's history. And so we're going through a re-optimization in the United States Air Force. There's very little that's not being affected by that work. And it will take years to transform the Air Force into the Air Force that we need. Some of the changes will happen and have already happened. So some of them are very immediate, some will take years. The way that it impacts the Air Force Research Lab is really trying to build that affordable, competitive, continuous pipeline of technologies that we can then put into programs of record and field. And that's really the focus, General Bartolome, of your tenure as you take on the lab. General Kane has been working extremely hard for the last year. So the lab is kind of interesting. You know, there's sort of two aspects to it. There's this idea called technical pull, where there's folks that want stuff, very specific stuff from the lab, and the lab delivers. You know, think about tech maturation, think about informing the force design, think about reducing risk for PEOs. The lab does that, but that's not all the lab does. The lab also does tech push. So General Bartolome, one of your jobs is to try to find that balance. If you leave it to me or people above me, all they're going to want is the tech pull. And so we're going to have to find that balance between Mr. Sekulich is kind of looking at me like, yeah, between tech push and tech pull. There's stuff that we have in warfighters' hands right now that they never asked for. That's called tech push. Like, hey, I know you don't think you need this, but here you go. Oh, wow, I didn't realize I needed that, but thank you. And so there's a mix of that going on inside the lab. And so we're going to have to figure out how to change, how to transform, get ready for great power competition, but not lose that secret sauce of tech push and tech pull balance. We're going to be working on S&T priorities and governance. The Air Force is setting up a new organization called the Integrated Capabilities Command. They're going to help us set a demand signal for S&T priorities. And so that work is already underway. I'm going to talk a little bit about what General Kane's been working on to try to get started on that in just a minute. And so that's where the lab is headed. And the lab has been under quite a lot of change over the number of years. So if you're a member of the Air Force Research Lab, I absolutely recognize that. Ever since we published S&T 2030, we've been working hard every day. And I think it's been getting better and better and better. And we've got some more work to do under General Bartolome's leadership. When I think about General Kane, and you may know, General Kane was on my staff before we posted him at the Air Force Research Lab. I want to talk about what he's been able to accomplish in just a single short year. I got to start with the most obvious accomplishment, his family. So Michelle, his spouse, his biggest fan, Nadia, his daughter, 18, she's not attending today. And then, of course, there's Evan. Evan, raise your hand. No? Man, these aren't working at all on him, are they? Do yours work on him? No? All right, okay, so let me kind of walk through what I think has happened in General Kane's short year. The first one is I think he has pivoted the lab to square up to great power competition. Right now, the Air Force is under a lot of change all over the place. We have certain Air Force organizations that are kind of fighting it because change is difficult and uncomfortable. And we have other organizations that are squaring up to it. General Kane has made it clear that the lab is squaring up to that change. In everything he says, in all of his actions, it's very, very clear. I don't worry about his loyalty and the direction that he's received. He's very, very skilled at following through on commander's intent. He formed I'll call it a change cell inside of his own headquarters. And it's not just lab people that are in there. He's got LCMC people. He's got integrated development office people in there trying to form up what that change is going to look like so that we can build that continuous pipeline of technology. And so he's audited all the $6.3 as we're working towards how to change the decision authority of that money between the technology executive officer and the capability development executive officer. He's bolstered the AC governance process for how we do S&T prioritization and made that quite a bit stronger. He's really embraced this one AFRL, one fight concept. And so if you think about the integration, he is really, really good at integration work of the centers, because it's not just the lab that comprises Air Force Material Command. Integrating the work of the DAF and then integrating the work of the Space Force, which of course is part of the DAF. And so that's really, I think, when I think about what you've done in just a year, that's really the number one pivotal thing. That's what we needed you to do. When you started a year ago, we didn't know this is what you were going to be doing. I didn't, because it kind of kicked off in earnest in September. And he's just been remarkable in this regard. So he's really been able to align S&T to the DAF priorities. I think the second thing that you've done that's been remarkable is launching the Digital Capabilities Directorate. And frankly, that's right after one of my own things, right? So this idea of digital material management, it applies to all 6 of our centers. He's really embraced that. In fact, he stood up an organization just to square up to that. Number 3, he has built a human capital strategy so that we can make sure that our S&T workforce that we have today and one that we're going to have in the future is able to do this great power competition reoptimization. And that's been pretty successful. The fourth thing that he's done, and I don't know if you realize this or not, but you've been pretty busy basically making sure that we had the right leadership in the lab. And I had the staff counted up. You have literally hired 9. So basically 1/4 of your senior, your SLs, your STs, and your SESs, you've hired 9 out of the 36 in just the last year. So now I don't know if they're all leaving because they don't like me or you, but the reality is he's made sure that we put 9 extremely strong leaders that have this same way thinking in place. That is really remarkable. So Jason, I don't know, maybe he stacked the deck for you there. I don't know. Hopefully he did. So that's another thing that I noted. Number 5, he transitioned the Skyborg Vanguard program into a program of record. And that's pretty remarkable. So, and that thing's off and running. So if you hear the term collaborative combat aircraft, which is like the rage right now, that all started in the lab. Did you know that? That all started the Skyborg Vanguard program. And so what the lab has been able to do under General Pringle and now General Kane's leadership, teaming up with acquirers and operators has been quite remarkable. And I think Jason, you'll need to study that because we want to do a lot more just like that one. Number 6, and you won't expect this one. I don't know if she's online, but you earned the unsolicited Darlene Costello Good Housekeeping stamp of approval. She's a tough customer. She's their principal deputy in the Service Acquisition Executive's office, and has been around doing acquisition work for quite a number of years. And so for her, this is unsolicited. I did not ask her. For her to tell me how awesome and wonderful you've been is a strong statement, and that really caps off all of everything that I've said. So you can be proud of that. Okay, so what are the attributes that made him so successful in just 1 year's time? And he's an interesting study, this guy, because he's not that in-your-face, guy that's like waving around and being loud all the time. He's pretty humble and I wouldn't say quiet, but he's not that loud guy that's in your face. His reputation is sterling. And I think really he's very thoughtful. He's a man of integrity, and he does have a really big brain. And I think that has really served him well in this job. Evan, why are you smiling? Not so much. Is your brain bigger? Just the same. He has an ability to manage change and work. He has an ability to work his boss's priorities, not just his boss's priorities, and that's a real art. I love it when you make my boss happy. It makes my life a whole lot better. And he's really, really good at that. So it's not just me that he's trying to make happy. He finds out what is important to my boss and he works that. Oh my gosh, game changer for Duke. He listens to his team. When you talk to General Kane, you will always notice that he's listening very, very intently. And then he's acting, or he's asking you thoughtful questions about what you're telling him. I think that's something that makes you really, really strong as a strong leader. And then the last thing is he's got the perspective of an operator and an acquirer. He's what we call a dual patch. So he graduated from Air Force Weapons School, and he also graduated from Test Pilot School. I didn't know how common that is, how many there are that are like that, but it's a unique. Zap is telling me not a lot. It's just a few. So it's a pretty unique combination. So I think that's what's made you successful. And so I say you and Michelle and Evan, because he's going to be moving to Edwards, are about to embark on a second center command tour. We're going to launch them in a couple of weeks. He's going to take command of the Air Force Test Center at Edwards. He's going to expand, I would say, a little bit larger. Your team will grow in size there. And you're going to be a landowner. So he's going to become a landowner. He's going to be responsible for like 3 Air Force bases. So right now you don't have that. So that's another thing that you get to figure out. And so, so you always going to get a little advice from me. And so here's the advice. Keep playing to your strengths. I think it's the stuff that has made you successful to this point, the stuff that's made you successful as the lab commander will also make you successful at the Air Force Test Center. You'll probably hear this again in a couple weeks, but I think that's your secret sauce. And so on behalf of the women and men of the Air Force Research Lab, we wish you and Michelle and Evan a smooth move, number one, but also continued success at the Air Force Test Center. Thank you for your willingness to continue serving in the United States Air Force. At this point in your life, you have a choice, and we're very thankful that you've chosen to continue. So thank you. So let's give it up for General Kane. So now we have a new commander coming in today, Jason Bartolome. What makes Jason Bartolome the perfect lab commander for this pivotal point in time? I would point to three things. His work experiences, his academic training, which there's been a lot of it, and his leadership. Those three things. And so I want to unpack that just a little bit. If you can read his bio, and I'm not going to go through all the degrees. I think you have, I don't know, 5, maybe 5, 4, a lot. But there's a couple that I think are really important. The first one is his PhD. He has a PhD, not just a PhD, but a PhD from MIT. And not just from MIT, but he has a PhD in engineering systems. And this is going to be really, really helpful for the lab as we start building transition plans into programs of record. He also has a systems engineering master's degree from AFIT, which is our own school here, which is a very, very challenging, one of the most challenging degree conferring institutions. And he also has a master's certificate from legislative studies from Georgetown, which will also serve him very useful. Because remember, that first stakeholder that I talked about, Congress, they're kind of interested in what happens in the lab. Your academic training is extremely relevant to the duties that you're about to step into. I wish I could tell you that we had planned this from the start, but we didn't. But I'm sure thankful that we built you. The second thing that I would point to is all of his work experiences. And so, and I'm not going to go through his whole bio, but I think there's a couple of jobs that I think we need to kind of walk through just a little bit. The first one is actually your last one. So he just spent a couple years as PEO for weapons down at Eglin. He was building executable programs of record down there every day. That's what he did all the time. He was transitioning technology from the directorate, the Air Force Research Lab directorate, the munitions directorate that's resident down at Eglin. He knows how to work with the lab. This guy knows how to work with the lab. Like, all right. And you know how to be a PEO too. So now we're going to make you the leader of the lab, and you're going to work with PEOs. We're going to turn the page over a little bit for you. So I think you're going to do really, really well at that. He's been front and center on all of this work we've been doing on operational imperatives and cross-cutting operational enablers. Been doing a lot of munitions work. I think you've probably created, I don't know, 15 or 18 potential munitions programs that we could actually go off and launch. Maybe more, who knows? Actually, maybe infinity, because you've got this modular concept and we can kind of put things together in different ways. That's the skill set that we're going to need going forward. Not maybe the 6-1 area or the 6-2, but 6-3, 6-4. That's the things that we're going to need you to bring to the table. And so that PEO weapons work that he did, I think, is going to be really, really instrumental going forward for the Air Force and for the Air Force Research Lab. Another job that I think is pretty relevant was he did a stint at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab for 2 years, so kind of longer than a stint. And he was working directly for General Kane when he was the CSAF. And so I'll use the word observe. He wasn't leading Applied Physics Lab, but he was very much part of the team that was leading and watching and learning how it's done to run a large S&T workforce. And I got to believe that that's going to pay off for you. So I think that was an operative assignment as well. I think a third operative assignment for him was he was the Sentinel program manager for 4 years, a little over 4 years. Now, if you're F-35, you'll probably say that was the most complex. I'm not going to get in that argument, but I will say that Sentinel, if not the most complex, would certainly be in the top 2 most complex acquisition programs that we have in the entire Department of Defense. It's just a beast. It's way more than just a missile. And he ran that for 4 years. That is a systems engineering challenge right there. That's a large organization of about 1,200 folks, and you're really at the tip of the spear on every single day. Again, that's going to help you, I think, in this job as you work to transition technology. He was also a DARPA fellow. I don't know if anybody from DARPA is out there, but DARPA is traditionally this, the land of really, really difficult projects, and he worked in that. And so I think that's going to be pretty good training for him there as well. And then he was actually a legislative fellow in Senator Orrin Hatch's office. So he worked on the Hill. So not only did he knows what the Hill's looking for, so he'll be able to speak that language as we take the lab story to the Hill. And he did actually run an S&T organization, the Joint Warfighter Analysis Center there in Dahlgren, Virginia. So he actually ran an entire S&T portfolio. So I'm trying to paint a picture for him. I do think this is the job that you are meant for. All the jobs that you've been doing lead to this one. This is, and think about the time that you're stepping into this job during a time of great power competition. He's got a big brain. I only understand, on a good day, probably 40% of what he says. Just kidding, 60. He knows how to synthesize information. He's an optimist. He sees possibilities where others don't. And I think that's very, very useful. If you take those attributes that I kind of mentioned, his academic training plus his work experiences and his demonstrated leadership abilities, that stuff is going to kind of mix in a really, really interesting way going forward for the lab. And so you're also gonna get a little advice, if that's okay. Lean on this team. Together, you'll retain and you'll expand AFRL's preeminence, and that's what it is, as the Air Forces and the Space Forces nest for relevant invention, tech maturation, and risk reduction. When I think of the lab, those are the 3 things that I think of first, and that's what we need the lab to do. And so you're the right person for this job. I also would like to just spend a minute, just real quickly. I know we're running here, and the troops are probably, you guys doing okay back there? Now remember, at ease means you can do all this, okay? Commander, troops, you too. There you go. Okay. So who are you getting as your new boss? Well, you're getting Tracy. So with Jason comes Tracy. That's a pretty good team right there. And they met in a prayer group. And they have 4 children. 2 of the kids are with us today. Gloria, raise your hand. More, higher. Come on, don't be like Evan. Junior, I believe, at Texas A&M, and then Hudson, 19. Hudson, raise your hand. Are you at A&M also? What are you in the Corps of Cadets? Yeah. So he's doing that. He's got a very nice haircut, by the way. And then we've got another son, Isaac, and another son, Graham, the 2 older sons. And I'm hoping they're online watching this. I'm not going to go through all of the family accolades, but I'll tell you, this family that you're inheriting here, they're like skilled at everything. They're athletic, they're musicians, they're scouts, they love the outdoors, they know how to hunt, fish, ski, golf, paint, sing. I mean, pretty much everything in this family right here. 2 of them are not here with us today, but that's the family we're getting. He was born in Janesville, Wisconsin, which is I think a small town. Probably I've not heard of it. Mom and dad here, Ed and Lexi from San Antonio. he grew up about half of his life, half of his adolescence in Wisconsin, and the other half in San Antonio. So he's like super confused. I mean, really. So he likes football. He likes the Packers, and basketball. He likes the Spurs. So that's a weird combo, but whatever. Hobbies. He's an avid reader. He loves fitness. He loves sports, which makes sense because the kids do too. Outdoor activities. He's coached, I don't know, 20 seasons of sports, and he's involved in his church. And so that's who you're getting. And he's gracious. He's very pleasant to be around. I think you're going to like him, frankly. And so he's just a good human being, and he's got a great family, and he's got an incredible work experience going for him. And so I would say to the women and men of AFRL, thank you for supporting General Kane and Michelle as they've worked hard to work for you. We're going to miss them. I'm gonna still get to see him, but most of you probably won't see him too much going forward. But you're gonna quickly fall in love with Tracy and Jason, and so we're really fortunate with the changeover that's gonna come here. And Jason, what I would say to you and Tracy is take care of this team, take care of their families. If you take care of this team, they will take care of the mission, and that's what we need them to do. So thank you.
Thank you, General Richardson. It is my pleasure to introduce the Commander, Air Force Research Laboratory, Major General Scott A. Cain.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. The general joked about learning his lessons from the last change of command a year ago with the troops. Last time, my biggest mistake was I kind of looked around at the audience. I looked around at all the air power, and I just immediately went off script. So today I'm going to try to stick to my script a little more. But I do want to kind of start with that theme again, because you know, we're surrounded by all these great achievements in air and space, and you know, we stand amidst all this history, but we're really standing amidst those people back there, amazing people in person and online, who are making history right now and cementing our legacy as the world's strongest force. Through my time at AFRL, I've often repeated the phrase, it takes 20 years to be an overnight success. It's a reminder that behind every breakthrough, every technological leap, there are years of effort, countless setbacks, and individuals who persevered. Like Bill Barrett. Bill's one of the legends I learned about in the Air Force Research Lab back in the 50s. He wrote the book on radar cross-section measurement and how to design vehicles that similar to the ones I flew, like the F-117, right up here in the barn, building 821, up the hill from this museum. And we held decades of dominance in the skies, thanks in part to his work. And friends of mine came back from combat missions alive because of stealth. So we're able to deliver capabilities now because our predecessors have laid a lot of groundwork. So today, as I get back in this setting, back in the museum to relinquish command, I definitely have a deeper appreciation for AFRL's foundational role, from early research to experimentation and development, fueled by this incredible team. The lab is the driving force behind so many of the aircraft, the space systems, and weapon systems that are all around us right here today. Before I go further, I do need to pause, though, and just say some thank yous. So first of all, just thank you all for being here, everybody here for your support to AFRL and to Wright-Patterson. I want to thank all of our distinguished guests that are here, many civic, military leaders, elected officials. The support of this Dayton and Ohio community is exceptional in experience. I appreciate AFRL and Wright-Patterson being part of the Dayton and Ohio journey, led by people like Jeff Hoagland and Elaine Bryant and Joe Cease, many others here today, but thank you for making AFRL and Wright-Pat part of that journey. I also especially want to thank the family members that are here today. They're definitely serving and sacrificing along with the military leaders on the stage. This is another move for my family, and in particular a tough one because this community has been so good to us. Although the fishing is not as great in the Mojave Desert, I promise we'll find some in the high Sierras. Evan's not impressed with all the attention he's getting today. But to Michelle and Evan, thanks for everything that you do to support me, our family, and for what you do to serve national defense. I want to make sure I thank everybody who's been involved with putting this ceremony today, from the honor guard to the airlifter brass, the chaplain, all the teams behind the scene. I want to thank Tori for seeing me in at my chain of command, and then now quickly seeing me off as well, and all the volunteers, the ushers, the proctors. Thank you. I want to thank General Richardson for his remarks, but sir, I think a deeper thank you is in order from me. I mentioned to you before the ceremony, but I sincerely appreciate the life-changing experience of leading the lab. You know, I hope that I've left it stronger and nearer to the vision you have set for this command. And more personally, thanks for the support to me, to my family, to all the members of your command in what is a truly unique moment in our history. So thank you, sir. I'm fortunate to continue working for you in this great command, this AFMC. I want to talk just a little bit about the lab. The lab has gone through a lot of changes in the last few years. General Richardson talked about a couple of them. We've fundamentally changed the way that we've done business in response to S&T 2030. As he said, we've worked really hard to align the Department of the Air Force's, align to the Department of the Air Force's priorities as they have evolved significantly and rapidly. And there's more change to come as the DAF reoptimizes for great power competition. I look back, and over the past 5 years, if you count General Bartolome's arrival, AFRL would have had 5 different commanders in the seat that I'm leaving. Through all of that, the AFRL workforce has remained steadfast. Your dedication to the mission has never wavered. Your commitment to pushing the boundaries of science and technology is what makes the laboratory the powerhouse that it is. You are truly our ultimate advantage. You have an exciting future ahead of you. I have full confidence that General Bartolome is going to continue to build on our momentum and lead this team through this era of technological competition. I've mentioned it a couple times, and we've joked about it being a quick year. It has been fast and furious as I've served in this role, but I want to reflect on some of the things I've seen. And in addition to witnessing firsthand the incredible talent and dedication that resides in the lab, I've had a front row seat to a couple of things, like reinventing propulsion with the work that I've seen done on our engines just in the last year. I've been part of some amazing leaps in capabilities through what we call our vanguards. The general talked about Skyborg to CCA. We're also doing a little satellite experiment called NTS-3. The last time we did an experiment like this one, we ended up with something called GPS. And now we're also working on something called rocket cargo. These are capabilities that tip the balance of great power competitions. It's happening here. I watch AFOSR push basic research, realms of unknown becoming known or possible. And I've been part of making humans more effective, working better with AI-enabled machines, and airmen that are reshaping medical readiness for the era of great power competition as well. And I could go on, but you get the point. AFRL is incredible. It's daily changing the world that we live in. I leave it truly inspired, and I'll be its dedicated advocate. The general made comments about some of my accomplishments, and I'd like to just make a few remarks about what I think are the greatest and some of my proudest accomplishments over the last year. Early on, I laid out my intent, and I said that we'd drive the fight, be one lab in one fight, and that our people were the ultimate advantage. If I was given one task, it was to align to the DAF priorities, and it was, sir, through your strategic plan, the framework that you built, the commander's interest item that you gave me, that we strengthened all those things that you articulated about our processes and our resource allocation, and establishing metrics, which are highly elusive for S&T, but we've done it and they'll be used this year. We've all aligned behind the secretary and put our priority on reoptimizing our department for great power competition. And we've done some extreme teaming with the Integrated Development Office stand-up team, and we paved the way for that organization's initial capability. And we've initiated 3 very successful integrated planning teams that illustrate the lab's ability to find integrated solutions for complex, cross-cutting, cross-directorate challenges. The work that is being accomplished by these teams will be leveraged by the IDO and the new Integrated Capabilities Command to ensure continuous pipelines of technology development. We focused on the warfighter through people like Tony Cain and Dr. Tim Bunning's work on Savage Future. We had the largest CAF WEPTAC presence of scientists and engineers ever this year, which continues to strengthen lab warfighter connections and our focus on our S&T priorities. We stood up a customer engagement directorate under Dr. Paul Rett to further strengthen our ties with the warfighter. And we reestablished the AFRL Commanders Challenge after a 5-year hiatus, and those teams are out there right now innovating on that challenge that we gave them. And we not only looked at today's challenges and priorities, but we looked deep with the technologist strategic foresight by supporting the Secretary's initiative to look forward to the Air Force of 2050, providing the futurist view. I also told you that we were still one lab for 2 services, the Air Force and the Space Force, but that we needed to be one lab for one fight, focused on serving the joint fight with multi-domain capabilities. Under Dr. Andy Williams, the Office of the Deputy TEO for Space grew stronger and built stronger ties with space acquisition leadership and that community. And probably the accomplishment of yours that I'm most proud of is how we paved the way for integrating science and technology across our own lab. And hopefully you can tell by now that I truly do believe that our workforce is our ultimate advantage. Nothing that I'm talking about, none of this happens without you. The General talked about the Digital Capabilities Directorate and my CEO, Miss Alexis Bonnell. That Digital Capability Directorate he didn't mention, in addition to investing in digital tools and infrastructure, recently launched something called Nipper GPT, an experiment for our service and for our department. And completed, driven by Ms. Estep at the FMC headquarters, the hiring of more than those 9 individuals. We hired scientific and professionals, ST positions across the lab to increase our technical posture holistically. And I did my best to push authority down. The headquarters completed a senior rater realignment, making the directorates better positioned to grow our people. And this is just a snapshot of what all of you have done. We have done together over this very busy year, a time of change and transformation for the lab. There are many more leaders, scientists, medics, and support professionals that I don't have time to mention, but whom I appreciate greatly. Together, you've made us stronger, safer, more secure, and more ready for great power competition. While I'm looking forward to my next assignment, it is bittersweet to leave the lab. It's been an honor to lead AFRL, and as I said, absolutely a highlight of my career. I'll carry my experience here into the next phase, and I hope to keep a close relationship with the lab. And leaving the lab, I think that General Hap Arnold did get it right. And now I understand it better when he said the first essential of air and space power necessary for our national security is preeminence in research. So I vow to continue to be a champion for the indispensable role S&T plays in enabling the most capable force for our nation's superiority, with the ultimate goal of preserving our way of life. Thank you.
Thank you, General Kane. The Airmen and Guardians of the Air Force Research Laboratory would like to render a final salute to Major General Kane. General Richardson and Brigadier General Bartolome, please join General Kane at center stage. Today's change of command ceremony is deeply rooted in military history and dates back to the reign of Frederick the Great of Prussia. In that era, a ceremony was conducted in front of unit members so that all could see the appointment of their new commander. The modern-day ceremony is principally symbolic, yet it still announces to all the authority of the incoming commander in the finest military tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the change of command ceremony. Attention to orders. Air Force Materiel Command, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. Under the provisions of Air Force Instruction 51509, and in accordance with Special Order Number G2425, dated 10 July 2024, Brigadier General Jason E. Bartolome is hereby appointed Commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, effective 10 July 2024, signed Duke Z. Richardson, General, United States Air Force. Thank you, General Richardson, Major General Kane, and Chief Master Sergeant Labrador. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The Airmen and Guardians of the Air Force Research Laboratory would like to render their first salute to Brigadier General Bartolome. The United States Air Force is proud to introduce the 14th Commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, Brigadier General Jason E. Bartolome.
Well, in the spirit, sir, I think we should put the formation at rest, so please do so. Well, I want to get started with some big thank yous. And so, General Richardson, thank you for the honor and privilege of commanding this esteemed institution. I know this would not be happening if it weren't for you, sir, and your vision. I'm really excited to serve under you and executing your vision. So thank you for that. I also want to thank Mr. Hunter for being a great boss over the past few years. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve you and Mr. Cavelli. The Air Force and Space Force are blessed to have excellent leadership at this historic time. Sirs. Big thanks to Major Ebinger, Miss Gorby, Captain Saunders, Lieutenant Colonel Walquist, Mr. Velanco, Miss Ruth, Miss Tige, Mr. Alvarez, and the Air Force headquarters and CAG teams for making my transition so far run so smoothly. Thank you. Thanks Tim Sekulich and Tim Bunning and Chief Labrador. Where's Chief? Oh, there you are, Chief. Oh, there you are, Chief. For just sharing your experiences and wisdom with me over the last few months. I truly am excited working with you. Thank you, Jeff Deford. Is Jeff here? Jeff. So thank you for you and the whole Air Force Research Lab History Office for the tour this morning. It was fantastic. And a little plug for those, Jeff will be doing a AFRL look at the museum, and you can participate in that tour if you're interested. And it was absolutely fabulous, sir. 2.5 hours of starting from the beginning all the way to today. And it's incredible to be surrounded by such amazing innovation and amazing people. And so, Jeff, thank you for everything that you did there. Thank you, Ms. Bosma. That was wonderful. The Honor Guard, the formation, the military and civilian. It's great to see the civilians in the formation. I think that's unbelievable. I don't know that I've ever seen the civilians and military together, and I think that's great. The Airlifter Brass, great job. Thanks for coming from Scott. Let's give them a round of applause. Boy, that music is fantastic. Chaplain Payne, asked for some prayers. Thank you for such a powerful invocation. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful to the Lord for his blessings on my life and for this great nation that has been on. Thank you for all the DVs and civic, military, community leaders for attending today. Really appreciate you all being here, and thank you very much. I'm looking forward to working alongside my fellow AFMC center commanders. So first and foremost, General Kane, looking forward to working with you. You've been a great mentor over the last several months and even longer. And so I look forward to working with you. And General Shipton, I see Denny, you're here. General Shipton, General Allen, General Newberry, and General Hawkins. Thank you all. I really am looking forward to working with you. You all have been mentors to me, and it's just exciting to serve alongside you. And to many of my esteemed mentors, in fact, my first Air Force mentor of all time, Colin Tucker, when he was first lieutenant and I was second lieutenant, he's in the audience today. It's always really great. Zap, I see you. I see so many people. I know there's many online. I know, Professor Hastings, Professor Selby, Professor DeNeffel, Dr. Rhodes, Miss Crawford, Natalie Crawford, I think you're online, and it's wonderful that you be dialing in. Dr. Grayson, Miss Costello, General White, General Purdy, General Schmidt, Miss Watern. Thank you for all that you've done. I'm looking forward to serving with you. Then all of my great peers across the Air and Space Force. I listed about a dozen here, but Luke, Cropsey, General Voorhees, General Rogers, Kristen Panzenhagen, General Mitchum, Pive, Messer, Kunkel, Newman, Nemai, Lyons, Armagos, Laidlaw, Miss Baldwin, Miss Gentry, hey brother, Jason Lindsay, and all the others, and especially our coalition partners in the UK, Australia, Norway, the Netherlands. It's going to be fun work, and I saw some of you out there. We're gonna do some amazing things, and I'm looking forward to it already. I look forward to partnering with each of you to close critical gaps and lay the foundation for a dominant air and space force for the future. To my incredible family and friends, so I'd like you guys to stand up. I want to give you a little applause, but if you traveled out here, could you stand up? General Malloy, you got to stand up, please. Stand up, you all. Like Aunt Lee, please stand up. Aunt Debbie, my godmother. Uncle Mike, Uncle Skitch, Mom and Dad. Yeah, I mean, General Richardson, I think you had it spot on. Well, my family, my children, the Canes feel like family, but you don't have to stand. Okay, she says no. But thank you all for being here. I really value you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, and I'll tell you, it's great to be a part of an awesome family. There's a lot that zoomed in out there, so thank you for doing that. So most of all, I want to thank my wife Tracy and kids, Isaac, Graham, Gory, and Hudson. You guys are amazing. I'm proud of each of you. I love being your dad and your husband, and I love you all very much. All right. So while preparing for this assignment, I reflected on my time in the Air Force, leadership and service, and I found a couple things about myself. So the first thing I think I'm convinced of is I just love being part of teams. I really do. I love being connected to others, and I really love doing something bigger than myself. I mean, I don't know that there's much better than being a part of a great team and doing something bigger than yourself. And I also think I like to learn and grow. And I found that some of my learning is more painful than others. And I prefer the easier, but it seems like the more painful lasts a little bit longer. So, but I do love those things. And I'm pretty sure that's why I love the Air Force so much. And I actually think this is why I've grown so excited about joining AFRL. So I think maybe that should set in for all of us, especially us in AFRL, to be a part of a team, to be able to learn and grow, and to be a part of something bigger and more important than ourselves. It's just a true privilege, and I think we should take full advantage of it. I also put myself on an accelerated learning plan. So this spring at our AFMC Senior Leader Conference, our great historian Yancey Males, he loaded me up with some light bedtime reading. And he gave me some history of AFRL and the Air Force Science and Technology as a part of my reading plan. And so I don't know if Yancey's here today. I'm sure, Jeff, you're familiar with this. But I like Duffner's Science and Technology, the Making of the Air Force Research Laboratory. The thought, and this quote is really good, it thoroughly unpacks the bureaucratic orchestration of organizing a reoptimization in a way that our only Air University Press can deliver. Pretty good. And so what it really reminded me of as I read it is a lot of what we're doing right now. And, you know, to see General Basilio, General Paul, and the whole team navigate, which was an extremely challenging time, it had a lot of rhyming of some of the things, sir, that I know that you think about all the time. So it was really good. But I found Aiming Higher, a century of research in science and technology by the Air Force Research Lab and its predecessors, particularly inspiring. And I must say that, and I don't know if you all felt this way, but reading the history of the organization you're about ready to take command, it takes a whole new meaning when you're reading it. You know what I'm saying, sir? I mean, it's like, whoa. Because when you see it, you just know you're standing on the shoulders of giants. And it's almost overwhelming to just see the amazing work that's been done, but it gives a lot of excitement about what could happen in the future. And not only was it incredible to learn about the amazing technological breakthroughs and impacts of the labs, but it was even more inspiring to me to read about the brilliant people. And so I think winning together may be one of my favorite, two words put together. But when you see the history of the laboratory and you see the technology that we have around us, it's really been the innovative people like everyone in this room that really brought these things to bear. And, just look at the scoreboard at what it's meant for the United States and what we've needed to do in battle space. So I think it's incredible. So our history is about the brilliant, patriotic, hardworking, faithful men and women from all ranks and all walks of life who are behind our amazing legacy of innovation and who made our Air Force and Space Force the greatest in the history of the world. I believe we're living in a profound time, just as you said, General Kane, of consequence, and as challenging perhaps as any time in our history. I really believe that. I believe the mission of AFRL has never been more critical. The future of the fight depends on our innovations, technical wizardry, and our role to support and integrate within the air and space domains. Like the past, our success depends on brilliant, patriotic, hardworking, faithful men and women from all ranks and all walks of life banding together to deliver game-changing technology. I'm excited to serve with you in this important endeavor. You have my commitment that I will do my best to discharge the duties of this command. Thank you for your support and cooperation. Let's win together. Let's drive the fight and help our Air Force and Space Forces win the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigadier General Bartolome. Please stand and join us for the playing of the Space Force and Air Force songs, and remain standing for the departure of the official party. As a reminder, please join General Richardson in congratulating Brigadier General Bartolome in a receiving line and reception in the Cold War Gallery, which is located behind me in Hangar 3. There will be ushers stationed throughout the museum to provide directions to the reception. Thank you all for attending. Yes, of course, of course. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
He's like, he's from Janesville, Wisconsin. No one knows where that is. And I was like, I fully know where that is. Oh, thank you so much, sir. Do we want to try to get a picture really quick? I can ask the narrator. I know it's like pretty much like below her pay grade. Or maybe I can ask this gentleman right here.